Hi, Stefan. This is Jim Gillis with Win My Vote, and thanks so much for linking in. So I reached out to you because of your involvement with Honest Elections Seattle, and would love to talk with you about that, about forming a group here on Win My Vote, and then the different things that you can do with that group as far as organizing supporters and endorsing candidates and propositions and initiatives on upcoming ballots. And I can give you a quick little demo of the site and how that works. Also, would love to talk with you about the Piper Fund. One of our aims here at Win My Vote is to reduce, if not eliminate, the advantage that big money has in elections. And the idea behind that is that it has such a big influence simply because of television advertising and radio advertising can build up name recognition. And since we voters don't have a tool, we don't have a Travelocity or Kayak for candidates. It's kind of left, to us to search them out, and then name recognition sort of dominates that process. And a lot of people go into the ballots, and whatever name they recognize the most, is getting that vote. So the way that Win My Vote works is a voters are free. They can sign up with just a email address or a social media account. They enter only their zip code, and that zip code will place them in specific voting districts, and we can then produce for them a ballot, an interactive ballot of the upcoming elections. So for example, this is a San Francisco zip code, and you can see here that there's some upcoming elections here, and I'll use this recent presidential election as an example. So you can see here is my ballot, and it goes from the national level down to the state level races, and then the congressional district, and then state senate, state assembly districts, and it can go down to the county level races, and then even the city, the board of supervisors, and even school board races. We also have all of the propositions, so the state level propositions, as well as the city measures. And yes, these are real. This is San Francisco. We have 26 measures on the ballot, and we had 17 propositions. So the way that these work is that I can, you can see I've already checked a lot of these off on this ballot. But I would click on, and they would all start neutral. And I would click on, let's say, this Proposition 55. I could see a summary here, and I could read more, and scroll down and read the actual language. I can watch a little 1-minute, neutral video.
Prop 55 in 1 minute. Taxes for education. 4 years ago, a tax on the wealthy was...
And then I can also see groups and organizations that are voting yes, supporting it, and then groups and organizations that are opposing it or voting no on it. And then this is where the Honest Elections Seattle group would come into play, where they can go up, form a group page, make endorsements, and then I'd be able to then see those endorsements right here. So for example, Ethan Behrman, I follow him, so I want to click on here and see what he has to say.
When does temporary mean temporary? Well, it doesn't here in California when it comes to money and taxes. We passed Proposition 30 back in 2012, which was a 7-year.
And then I can, vote accordingly, right? I can look through some other stuff. I can learn about it. And let's say if I decide to say yes on this one, I can go back to my ballot. And you can see here that now it's nice and prominent that says yes. And this is really me filling out my ballot, as I go along. So I don't need to wait till the last minute. And I can fill it out 6 months before the election and really use this proposition and this area right here. And I can share, my thoughts with my friends, or I can share other information. We have a comment. You can see here it says comment on this race. You can comment on specific races as well as specific propositions and initiatives and that type of thing. You can also click on the candidate profile, and you can learn more about this candidate. So you can click on the video here.
Because it's your time, and I hope you'll join me on this journey.
and you can you can see here that has different issue statements, and you can do the candidate can build video, and they can be as in depth and detailed as they want, and we have see full bio. They have a lot of flexibility of building their page, so you can really drill down and learn a lot about this candidate. So when I go back to my ballot, I can see the top 7 candidates in this race. So you have this candidate here who spent tens of millions of dollars. Same with this candidate, and then lesser and lesser. I think Zoltan here, he's like a local guy in California. I don't think he spent hardly any money at all on his campaign. But with Win My Vote, these guys are right next to each other, right? So I can look at Gary Johnson's profile, even though he spent a fraction of the amount of the other candidates. And if I like him, I can favorite him. And when I go back to my ballot, you can see he's now in first place. His nameplate's turned green. I can also get an indication of how he's doing, number of favorites on this ballot. But then I can go to the next race. And again, I can go down to school board races, and let's say, I'm here, and Rachel Norton could be a darling of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, could have tens of thousands of dollars pouring into her campaign, and she's trying to buy this seat because she has her eye on, the city council or state senate or state assembly or Congress or etc. Where Matt Haney could be a school teacher that is that's going to spend $300 on his campaign total. The way that Win My Vote gets money out of it is that the more people that are here on Win My Vote, looking at the candidate profiles, favoriting them, making their decision here, the less and I don't mean to make Rachel the bad person here, but the less Rachel's television commercials and radio commercials have an effect, right? They're not going to have an effect on me if I can, see these guys side by side. I can listen to what they have to say, and then I can favorite the one that I like the most. The reason that money dominates politics is because in the current state, I'll know all about Rachel and I'll know nothing about Matt, simply because I'll never, he can't afford television or radio or to blanket the city with posters. Anyway, hopefully that makes sense. Would love to talk with you about again, both Honest Elections Seattle group and how they can create a group page, create endorsements, and then organize their support around specific candidates and propositions, all over Seattle, not just all over Washington, not just Seattle. And then also would love to learn more about the Piper Fund. We're not really in, taking money right now or investment or anything else. It's pretty much sustainable, but would love to still talk with you about it, and would definitely be open to it because we're somewhat small and have big aspirations, for doing this nationally. Anyway, thanks a lot. Bye bye.